effort striving to properly portray what had just happened to him. And he's there huffing, "It was following me along the path by the old sawmill." He kept saying it ran on 2 legs. It was on 2 legs.
I'm gonna need him to stop, though. He creeped me the fuck out.
In his face, with blood continuously dripping onto him.
Damn.
Something above him. Law enforcement specifically, though, were strictly given the orders to not talk about this, especially to the media, given the severe circumstances. And many of them held on to that awful secret.
Kentucky has a supernatural predator by what lurks beneath. What's good? How you day? Good morning, evening, night, whenever you're watching this video. So I take it we're about to get into some freaky-ish, because I'm not gonna lie, as I'm reading that title, I'm like, yo, I want to call BS off the rip. The thumbnail, I get it. That's just a thumbnail to lure people in. I know that's not the supernatural predator we're about to see, whatever, right? All right, boom. So I read the description. Let me open it a little bit. Reports of a violent wolf-like creature is said to inhabit the area of the land between the lakes. I take it we got like a park, like a national park. No, I'm gonna let it go, whatever. In rural Kentucky, tonight I take you into the history of LBL and 3 terrifying documented cases that showcase just how evil, vile, and violent this being is. Prepare yourself for this episode. It's going to affect you. That's a damn description. That is fucking good. My bad for the pauses here and there, even though I already read the description, but it was grabbing me again. I'm like, yo, I need to step my descriptions up. But either way it go though, right? I want to call BS so bad as I read this title. I really do want to. But I've watched enough we've watched enough videos on this channel where it's like, yo, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of shit is illogical. A lot of it doesn't add up. Like, yo, this just doesn't make sense to me. BS, I'm not taking that. But the story, as we're getting it, is like, yo, but it's kind of connecting here. If it's a puzzle, it's like, I don't want to believe it. Look, I'm human, okay? I do not want to believe it because I've never witnessed that shit before or whatever. I'm just speaking of things in general that don't make sense, basically, from stories. Basically, what I'm saying is, I don't want to believe it, but I've heard enough stories like this where it's like, yo, I kind of believe this shit. And I'm hoping this don't go that direction because I'm not in the mood for that. After that alien story from Mr. Ballin, I got my questions on it, but yeah, it did kind of F me up because it was like, yo, this shit was creepy. Either way it go though, about to check out the video. You want to check out the original video? Link will be in the description below, but let's go.
Stories that I'm about to share with you in tonight's episode are so deeply disturbing and terrifying, I had a rough time recording this episode. The events that I'm going to speak on are true and are documented. These are the events of the land between the lakes. In western Kentucky, there's a nationally known area commonly referred to as the land between the lakes, or LBL for short. Consisting of more than 300 miles of shoreline, it is situated right between Barclay Lakes and Kentucky. Almost 200,000 acres of forest and over 200 miles of walking trails alone set this gargantuan revenue stream of nearly $600 million a year for the forest industry. However, ever since the area's inception, even going back before Europeans have settled here, it's always had a very dark and grim history. There are hundreds of small family cemeteries dotted all throughout the acreage of forest that are all from early Kentucky settlers, Chinese immigrants, and African slaves, even dating back to the 1700s to where there are literally bodies from the Revolutionary War. And unfortunately, during this same time, the mortality rate among infants was exceptionally high, and so many mothers would bury their children right outside their cabins, so this way the moms could look outside the cabin window and peer at their children's graves. Among all the European settlers, the African slaves, and the Chinese immigrant graves, there were also numerous Native American graves, scattered not all just throughout the area, but even before European settlers ever showed up. This area in particular has always been the hot conversation point of strange hauntings, Indian curses, among other strange supernatural occurrences. But what you've all came for is the several tales that have been reported numerous times all throughout the years, spanning centuries, is a humanoid wolf-like creature said to stalk the forest looking for its next victim. While there have been...
I want to call bullshit so bad, dog. I do, man. I've never heard about this place, and maybe it's the way he's explaining it, but I'm like, yo, this sounds like a pretty fucked up area. Let me mute my phone real quick, 1 second. And as you can hear, my voice is kind of coming back too, so you may hear a little puberty effects here and there. Now I know one thing I can say is someone who love to actually give like the horror feel from the channel, like the scenery, the music, everything. I love this channel setup already. Like looking at this background, I know this is off topic, but looking at this background, yo, this is really creepy and fire, and it's bringing me in more. And the little piano music, the doom, doom, it's just bringing me in a lot more. So I'm hoping it's not going to be one of those situations where it's like, and look, I'm always honest on my channel. You can get mad if you want at the end. If I don't believe it, I'm gonna let you know I don't believe it. But like I was about to say, I'm really hoping it's not one of those situations where it's like, yo, I'm really sold because the story was told really fucking good. So I believe it. All right, I'm gonna let it go though.
Humanoid wolf-like creature said to stalk the forest, looking for its next victim. While there have been reports of this being killing humans, most notably, what is documented down is people fearing for their cattle's lives and their livestock's lives because this thing had an appetite for killing livestock. It was described as being nearly 7 feet tall, on 2 legs, thick, long, matted hair all over its body, and a stench reminiscent.
Is this the story, Mr. Ball? Is this the same one that Mr. Ballin told? I'm gonna let it finish.
On 2 legs, thick, long, matted hair all over its body, and a stench reminiscent of death itself. Many refer to this beast as the Wolfman because the tracks that it left, they were similar to that of a human's, but where the front portion of the feet should be, where the toes are, instead they were claw marks, resembling somewhere between half canine and half human. The head was reportedly very huge, had a very long snout, and teeth that were like razor blades, and eyes glowing red like the fiery pits of hell. Arms incredibly long, with long, spindly fingers and sharp claws at the end. And many times at night, it's been documented over and over that many people, from immigrants to settlers to natives, would all hear this thing howling and growling off in the distance, and they were terrified, to such an extent that some of them would even go out and tie up their livestock or bring their most prized livestock in the house with them overnight to keep them safe. The legend of this particular beast started at least 100 years ago, and over time it's just been passed down by word of mouth from generation to generation to generation and family to family. And since this time, new sightings and experiences just keep on occurring. One theory is that this wolf creature used to be an evil native witch who could shapeshift back and forth between man, this wolf creature, and an actual wolf, and do whatever he pleased. And the story goes that he had apparently been outcast from his own tribe for the use of his black magic. And in doing so, he was tracked down by several of the tribe's warriors.
I always really wonder what is upon us that we have no idea about, and not even here like for like our assumptions we make, like, oh, I feel like this happened or this happened. Legit, I'd be thinking sometimes like, far as the ish that we as humans, we just don't know, unless you that unlucky one who just bumped into one day. I don't know, but I do be thinking about shit like that though. It's like I just wonder who's upon me there right now, where it's like, you're not even human. Look, I ain't gonna look. We're not gonna get into the whole conspiracy talk. But this video is gonna take me there. I'm not gonna lie to you. Damn, this is crazy.
For the use of his black magic, and in doing so, he was tracked down by several of the tribe's warriors and killed while he was in his wolf state, and in his last dying breath, he put a curse on the land and everybody who lived in it, saying that he would come back for their lives. Another theory floating around is that this creature was actually a European settler who had come here in the 1800s, who had apparently carried some sort of disease which would turn him into a madman during the nighttime, and eventually his family would go into complete solitude, and everybody just figured them dead, since nobody had heard from them in a very long time, and the family had become completely isolated when, in the early 1900s, their homestead was found, completely vacant, with no signs of anybody ever living there for a long time. So there's a lot of speculation surrounding the mystery and drama of the wolf beast. Moving forward a little bit in history, you have French traders and explorers who inhabited the area in the 1800s were being warned by Shawnee tribesmen, shaman, and warriors alike of a tall, dark, wolf-like creature inhabiting the forests, while other legends claim this wolf creature to be a shape-shifting Shawnee shaman. Accounts of this creature literally go all the way back to the 17 and 1800s when settlers first started arriving here. I mean, there's written accounts of hunters going missing in the nighttime, people hearing these strange, unnatural howls off in the distance, being completely frightened by the tone, timbre, and pitch of what they're hearing because it's so out of the realm of normalcy for them. During the 17 and 1800s, bison were still a very prominent part of America's wildlife, and in fact, they even roamed a good portion of Kentucky, where multiple hunters would find their carcasses half-eaten, their throats completely torn out by a massive predator. And even now, up to 2022, 2022, with the Forest Service industry trying to restore the bison life in Kentucky, still find calves missing constantly. As time would go on, communities began to build and expand in the area. And even though there were thriving communities just budding up, it was still considered a very rural place to live pre-1950s. Prior to 1959, predating the Kentucky and Barclay Lake dams being constructed, the area was actually referred to as Between the Rivers. And in 1963, President John F. Kennedy at the time officially labeled it LBL, or Land Between the Lakes. And even now in 2022, sightings, experiences, and strange things are still going on to this very day all around that area.
Oh shit!
You are
Okay.
unique, and your
Are still going on to this very day all around that area. One of the more frightening documented cases that occurred to a group of university students who were camping at Land Between the Lakes back in 1973. The story goes that a group of young college guys got together to go have a good time, to go camping. They were sitting there next to their Volkswagen microbus, just enjoying the nice warm fire, enjoying a beautiful spring evening in the middle of lush nature, when one of them had to respond to a nature call. So he goes off into the woods and takes care of business, and while his friends sit around the fire and continue talking and enjoying each other's company, when he comes back, and they could tell he's visibly concerned when he wasn't before. He was just laughing and having a good time, and now he's saying, guys, I went to go pee and I felt like I was being watched by something, and I heard this strange sniffing noise in the woods. His friends, of course, tried to downplay it and just said, you know what, man, you probably just heard a hog or something, or maybe a bear. Don't worry about it, we're fine. But he would not accept that as an answer, because as evening turned into night, he began to grow increasingly nervous, and as night grew more and more, the boys would start to become more and more tense, no longer being able to just brush it off as nothing, because now they could sense that something was wrong, and they could hear shuffling of something moving all around their campsite. And in fact, it wasn't just moving, it was circling the campsite. So something, a predator, was large enough and intelligent enough to use strategy to keep hidden out of the light of the fire, to circle around the campsite like it was stalking its prey, and they could hear it shuffling and sniffing around, and they could hear whatever it was moving very swiftly all around their campsite, back and forth, just waiting like a cat waiting to pounce on a mouse. The boys at this point, extremely anxious, began shining their lights around the woods, expecting to find something, but their light never caught anything, because this thing was so intelligent.
That damn Volkswagen so quick. Stop playing with me, boy.
It knew and was able to keep out of the light. And that's when howling had erupted from the woods around them, similar to that of a wolf howl, but deeper and guttural and blood-curdling. And the howling had erupted from all around them. So now they were completely surrounded by multiples of these beings making these noises. And that's when they began to see glimmering eyes going back and forth and passing around their campsite. And they'd only catch it for a glimpse, and then it was gone. And so now, as you can imagine, things are growing incredibly tense. All of the boys at this point are completely terrified. They all run into the Volkswagen bus and are deciding, we got to get out of here. There's something stalking us. We are terrified. So they get ready to pull out, and as they do, and they're going down the dirt road out of the forest, they see something in the backlights, the faint lights of the Volkswagen. They're being pursued by a large black figure that looked to be like a wolf, chasing after the Volkswagen. And as their vehicle had slowed down to approach a corner, they feel this massive jolt in their Volkswagen, and they could see that this creature was holding on to the Volkswagen with all of its strength, trying to hold the Volkswagen and pull it back. Pressing down the gas pedal as hard as they possibly could, they were finally able to get enough leverage to fly out of there and be gone.
Hit the brake and make dog hit the back and boom, he hit the back. Well, then again, if it's for real though, he might, nah, you don't want to hit the brake, his dog probably tear that little car up. Keep driving, dog. Keep driving. Oh shit. I know one thing. I'd have been there screaming like a bitch. Man, I ain't gonna lie to you, dog. This is really good to listen to. It kind of feel like so far this is real, unfortunately, right? So far we don't have any deaths. So cool. The vibe I'm getting from this channel is like, I want some fake stories because I'm getting a Tales from the Crypt vibe, dog. Or like a Are You Afraid of the Dark type of vibe, because it's like, yo, it's like a really good story time. It's like gather around the fire, nigga, a kid. But so far though, I ain't believing it.
Black figure that looked to be like a wolf chasing after the Volkswagen. And as their vehicle had slowed down to approach a corner, they feel this massive jolt in their Volkswagen, and they could see that this creature was holding on to the Volkswagen with all of its strength, trying to hold the Volkswagen and pull it back. Pressing down the gas pedal as hard as they possibly could, they were finally able to get enough leverage to fly out of there and be gone. After breaking free and tearing out of the woods, they did not stop until they had arrived back on campus, where they would all get out, completely shaken, nearly in tears. And when they went to inspect the back side of their Volkswagen, they found 4 deep gashes like claw marks torn into the metal of the engine compartment on the Volkswagen.
Wolf Demon. 1978. We had
In 1978, in Grand Rivers, Kentucky, which is the starting point of Land Between the Lakes, there's a documented case of an individual who was staying at his aunt's house for a few weeks during a summer vacation. So this was right around mid-July, in the evening time, surrounded by the Kentucky wilderness of hundreds of acres of woods all around. This home had been built down a hill into the side of a large dirt hill, and along with this, there were several man-made trails that led to various portions in the forest, like an old abandoned railroad track, the shoreline to Kentucky Lake, an old abandoned sawmill that was no longer in use and had not been for a long time, and with the addition of a new dirt bike this family had just acquired, it would help define the trails a little more and easier. And as this case begins, the main eyewitness of this documented case is 17 at the time, his youngest cousin is 10, and the one out on the dirt bike during this time is 13, who goes by the name of Joe. He's out running around in the woods, the eyewitness's uncle is at work, and his aunt is at the store in town. So it's just them home right now, and he remembers the woods around them being very serene, very peaceful, full of squirrels and birds chirping. So him and his youngest cousin were awaiting Joe to return, since his own father strictly forbid him to be out on his dirt bike in the woods after dark, and so they were expecting to hear that dirt bike sound coming up back up on the road up the driveway. And so the eyewitness and his youngest cousin in this story are just sitting there goofing off when they hear Joe's dirt bike not just slowly and casually changing gears and coming up the road to the driveway, but flying down. I'm talking full throttle, no gear changes, at full speed, just flying. He comes flying out of the woods so incredibly fast, he actually goes airborne for a few seconds before pounding down on the pavement, and he's clearly terrified and now struggling deeply with his descent down the hill, trying to keep the bike straight and upright. The eyewitness and the youngest cousin could see that he wasn't sure how he was going to stop the bike, and so he turned his bike to slide it, and out from underneath him it goes flying. As he hits the brakes hard, the bike begins to slide sideways as he's coming to the very end of the driveway. Joe had begun to tilt his body so the bike would go out from underneath him while he went down the rest of the hill. The bike, caught in a perpetual spin, eventually sputtered and died. Our eyewitness and his cousins were completely terrified by what they were seeing, completely in shock, mouths open, eyes wide. They were not exactly sure what was going on and why Joe was flying out of the woods. But as Joe pulled himself up covered in dust, he's visibly crying, he's shaking, he is completely terrified by something, and he keeps looking back up at the hill and looking back at the wood line, and he's scanning and he's looking around really nervously, and he's taking deep breaths and heaving. He's clearly panicked and looking at something, because something had to have been following him with the way he's acting. And as the eyewitness and his cousins are watching this unfold, they're looking at where he's looking, and they look up to see at the top of the hill where he's looking at, and they're looking back at Joe and looking back there and trying to figure out, what is he so freaked out about? And as this is going on, right around where they're at, they have a dog pen full of basset hounds, and these basset hounds start erupting, going crazy with growling and at something up at the top of the hill. And that growling soon turns to whining and whimpering.
My bad. When he did the it sat in my head. You know, sometimes shit just sit in your head. You be like, I was trying to be mature. I was like, I ain't gonna laugh at it, but I kept hearing I need my voice back, man. I can't even laugh good. That's why we watch no ghost videos in a minute, because I can't scream. Not that I be screaming. Like, if you ever seen my ghost videos, I don't be screaming. I ain't all in your ear. It's more like a manly scream, like, oh shit, what? It's more manly though. What the hell? But let's get back to Tales from the Crypt. Let's get back to Supernatural Predator though.
Looking back at Joe and looking back there and trying to figure out, what is he so freaked out about? And as this is going on, right around where they're at, they have a dog pen full of basset hounds, and these basset hounds start erupting, going crazy with growling and at something up at the top of the hill. And that growling soon turns to whining and whimpering in desperation as these basset hounds are trying.
I'm sorry, I wanted him to make the sound. I'm sorry. Watch the video.
Soon turns to whining and whimpering in desperation as these basset hounds are trying and desperately clawing and gnawing at the cage to try and get out, because now they could sense there is something up in that wood line that's coming. They grabbed me! Look at my leg! Joe was screaming to them, showing them the claw mark on his right thigh. Whatever it was that had got him had torn through his denim jeans. You could see visibly on his leg where the jeans were cut and blood was seeping through on the wound. And the mark wasn't just like some sticker bushes or he had hit a branch. It was a clear defined claw pattern. And he's walking around taking huge gulps of air, crying with every effort, striving to properly portray what had just happened to him. And he's there huffing, "It was following me along the path by the old sawmill." He kept saying it ran on two legs. It was on two legs.
I'm gonna need him to stop though. He creeped me the fuck out. Get dog out my ear. I'm too high for that. Boy, it's like he's behind me. I need my voice back. I'm sorry, dog. Hey, let's finish this video. Boy, what the hell? I'm not gonna lie, so far what I'm thinking though, I'm like, yo, what if it was like a beast attack though? Like a wolf or something. I don't know. A bear. What? Who knows, whatever. Because you know when you get scared, your mind gets really extra. Like, yo, you let me explain the story. Like, yo, I swear it was the elephant, blah, 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 trying to do. I'm just naming something just weird, right? Because in my head, that's what it was. It was like, whole time, like, boy, that was a poodle that was chasing you. Legit, I got stories of me running from little dogs, but in my mind, at the time, boom, when it happened, it's like, oh, this is a pit bull or a Rottweiler. Pure, I'm gone. But when you safe, you start analyzing shit. You're like, okay, you know what, I was tripping. But I'm still not going to tell it that way. I'm not going to tell it that way. Or it could have really been like some really crazy unidentified beast, because I'm not going to lie. We had these talks all the time. I am one who believe like some crazy shit go on here that we just have not seen yet or experienced yet. I do feel like that. I feel like it's shit already here. Especially when it comes to like the forest, like underground, all that shit underwater. Man, I really feel like it's some shit. I really feel like that's why I've been trained to always look up when I want shit. Where the crazy shit is. Look up. It's in the sky. This shit under my feet. Where I'm already at. Oh, you slick motherfuckers. No, I'm playing, dog. But hey, them stories for another time, dog.
Or he had hit a branch. It was a clear defined claw pattern, and he's walking around taking huge gulps of air, crying with every effort, striving to properly portray what had just happened to him. And he's there huffing, "It was following me along the path by the old sawmill." He kept saying it ran on two legs. It was on two legs. It chased me. It saw me and it came after me. His eyes are all wide. He's bugged out. He keeps looking around as if he's waiting for this thing to pop out at any moment. And his heart is thudding in his chest. And he is just waiting. And his heart is just throbbing in his chest, going crazy. And the next thing you know, a howl cuts through all the drama and all the conversation immediately from the very top of the hill where Joe had just come from. And nearly instantaneously, all the dogs that were acting frantic, trying desperately to get out of their pen, stop.
Yep.
And all their attention in unison is brought to the top of the hill, and all the hair on the nape of their neck is standing straight up, looking, anticipating something. And our eyewitness and his cousin are now confused at, what is Joe talking about? Two legs, a snout, it got him. What? It was at this point that Joe turned around to face his siblings and his cousin, and he's pushing them with both hands on the back, saying, "Come on, we gotta go now. We gotta go," pushing them physically into the house to the front door. And this is right where it came out. The eyewitness cannot believe what he's seeing, because at first, it appeared from the outline of where it was coming out from to just be an exceptionally large wolf. But as it went down the hill and approached the one-lane road that would connect itself to the driveway, it was a towering wolf creature that easily rivaled the height of a man, if not a foot or two taller. Completely dumbfounded by what they're witnessing, their brain is trying to rationalize what they're seeing as well as deal with what it's seeing in real time. Judging by its wolf-like appearance, this is clearly no Bigfoot, and it stopped and stood there and raised its arms up to the sky and let out a deliberate, low, guttural howling noise as if to give praise to the oncoming darkness of the nighttime around it. In that moment, a security light at the end of the driveway popped on. It was one of those lights that popped on but took a couple seconds to gather all of its energy to fully illuminate the area. And as it did, this thing used its arm to shield its eyes from the glare of the light. And in this very moment, Our eyewitness and his cousins for the first time knew exactly what Joe was talking about. This simply wasn't an it was not a person.
My bad, I've watched too many movies, but I'd have felt like dog, cuz was gonna turn on one. You got scratched by it. That ain't gonna happen though, my bad. I went in horror fanatic mode real quick. How you feel, nigga? Hey, hey, dog, gotta go and get up out of here. Yo, that's your new family. Go on out there and holler at dog. Y'all understand each other at this point.
Time knew exactly what Joe was talking about. This simply wasn't an it was not a person in a costume, it was not a Bigfoot. This was a wolf creature, and as you can imagine, they all go tearing into the house as fast as they possibly can, doing everything they can to barricade the door, putting shelves in the way, putting bags of dog food in the way, just trying to keep safe, locking the door, holding onto the door, all of them running into the kitchen, grabbing hold of knives, ready for anything, and then go barreling towards their aunt's room, locking the door and hiding, just shivering and shaking, waiting for the next thing to happen. And the basset hounds outside in the pen are going crazy again, and they could hear this thing approaching the house. And it gets up on the porch and it's thrashing around and breaking stuff and moving stuff, and then it goes to the side of the house near one of the bedrooms. Fortunately for them, not the aunt's bedroom, but a different bedroom. And then they hear glass shatter. So whatever this thing was had now broken the window in an attempt to get in the house from on the outside. And they're all huddled together. They're shivering. They're shaking. They're terrified. They have no idea what's going to happen. And they're clutching their knives. They're waiting for the scene to just bust down the door. And they're going to have to try and survive.
Shit, I'm waiting too. Damn, I'm sorry. This is good. The way he's explaining the story. Because I'm waiting too. Because I'm like, as soon as the door whoop, in the house, psh, I'm out the house. But then again, where you going to go? Where the hell you going to go? Oh.
They're clutching their knives. They're waiting for the scene to just bust down the door, and they're going to have to try and survive. Almost like clockwork or out of a movie, they hear the horn of a Cadillac coming down the driveway to let them know, hey, I'm back with groceries. You need to come out and start bringing everything in. But neither of them responded. They were so terrified they just remained huddled together, never breaking free, too scared to even respond to their aunt or mom's calls. Wondering why they were not coming out to greet her, she actually had to go up on the porch, unlock the door, and push this wall of miscellaneous items out of the way just to get into the house. And everybody stayed put until she came to unlock the door. And after asking them, why didn't you respond? They told her outright exactly what had happened and their whole story. And her response was strange because she didn't laugh, she didn't cry, her expression and emotion was just blank. And it wasn't until after she came back from inspecting outside, where there clearly had been something, a window, broken from the outside in, that she finally realized something was off. Later on in the evening, when the uncle had come home and the aunt had relayed the series of events that had transpired this evening to him, he goes and talks to the kids and tells them, stay out of the woods. And to make matters more terrifying, he goes on to tell them his own findings. Earlier that same morning, he had gone down the path that led to the old sawmill and found pits dug on the sides filled with animal carcasses and bones that simply could not be explained. There was also holes dug into the side of the bluff that overlooked the old sawmill, easily resembled a small cave or a den large enough for a full-grown man to be in. And several years back before this, the old Boy Scout camp used to be on the other side of Grand Rivers. And then it had become commonplace to see a strange human wolf-like creature along the shoreline near the campsites. It was only a few weeks after these events transpired that the eyewitness had gone home, but this story would shake him and stay with him forever.
Yeah, you should have told me some shit like that before I came over your damn house. Let me come over your house. You got a whole demon wolf. My bad. I did skip that ad, though. That one was a really long one, dude. Sorry. I let the other ones play, though. Ah, dog. I'm not gonna lie, though. I want to hear a ghost story from What Lurks Beneath. My bad. It's the first time on the channel. Make sure I got it right. I want to hear a freaking ghost story. I'm gonna like and sub it to my bell on, though. It's fire. Yeah, What Lurks Beneath. I did say it right. I want to see what ghost stories he got. I'm not gonna lie. If he has ghost stories, he's gonna be kind of OP. See, I'm just looking at my recommended. My bad. Let's get back to it.
Like creature along the shoreline near the campsites. It was only a few weeks after these events transpired that the eyewitness had gone home, but this story would shake him and stay with him forever.
1980s mysterious.
And finally,
murders.
Forever.
I'm mad each year is like cameras were not a thing.
And finally, we have the horrifying and gruesome events that occurred in the land between the lakes in the
Just at your reach like that, I should say.
we have the horrifying and gruesome events that occurred in the land between the lakes in the 1980s. Two police officers would give their terrifying account of what had happened this evening. Both of them had received a call to go on an investigation near the rural campgrounds in the land between the lakes. With the tourist season about to start very soon, early birds were already showing up getting the prime spots for camping. So, while the campgrounds were in the process of filling up, it was still relatively empty. Upon arriving at the scene was not only a coroner, but several coroners from out of the county, as well as an ambulance. And unfortunately, there were no victims to save in this case because everybody was already dead. The first eyes to feast upon this gruesome display of murder was a very young, untainted married couple who were completely shocked upon their findings. Neither one of them wanting to leave each other to go and get help, so both being incredibly nervous and disturbed by their findings, traveled to the nearest town in order to seek help, and in turn, Grand Rivers then called the authorities to go investigate. This married couple was so freaked out by what they had found, they refused to go back, only giving officers directions and pointing them in the right place to get where they needed to go, and the young couple themselves decided to stay the night in a hotel, not wanting anything to do to go back there. A flurry of police vehicles, people from the county, anybody to investigate a possible homicide was showing up on the scene en masse, and all they found was a lone little camper with a small little campfire just kind of going barely. And this campfire was now rekindled to give them a little more light, in addition with all their spotlights and other equipment around them. I think at this point that everybody on the scene knew it was about to be very bad, but they never expected what they would find. Approaching the motorhome, they could tell already that the front and back doors were open, with one being bent on its hinge and slanted slightly. And shining their lights in, they're looking around, and they see lots and lots of blood, lots of handprints and blood tearing all along the metal siding. Something very deadly and gruesome had took place here not that long ago. Crime scene tape was now being placed all along the perimeter, and white little evidence markers were being placed all around where they would find pieces of evidence such as ripped bloodied clothing, 3 bodies and body parts, separated limbs, and a pile of human bowels, and pieces of loose flesh barely clinging onto muscle tissue. The 3 bodies were in such bad, gruesome shape that they could only suspect that it was either a psychotic man who had gone on a killing spree or a group of sadistic murderers. These bodies were so badly butchered that the police could not really tell what kind of weapon did this. They suspected it could be a chainsaw, possibly an axe, but the weapon appeared to be unnameable because they could not figure out what it was until inspecting a little closer, and the wounds all matched that of a well-defined claw. The nature and severity of this particular crime scene was so appalling that many law enforcement officials and medical personnel were retching, and rightfully so. Law enforcement had thrown out all kinds of theories like a bobcat, a bear, a coyote. What could this possibly be? But as the coroner examined the bodies more, he just kept shaking his head, not sure what to make of this gruesome scene himself. And he went on to explain this. The claw marks on the back of the father's corpse was made by 4 distinctive claw prints with a smaller digit like a thumb. The span in total was wider than that of a man's hand, but also vastly different than that of a bear's. And the gouges and tears in the flesh were deliberate, as if whatever made this was trying to grab at its prey from escaping, which makes me shudder to think about. The bite marks is what really disturbed them even more, because the snout and the size of whatever bit them had to be larger.
It's crazy to me because I'm not gonna lie to you. My body is doing, my mind, my mental is doing everything possible to combat this. Like, well, what if this happened? What if they made like some claw device? What if this is going on? Boom, boom. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's doing that. But out of all of the stories that I heard today from him, this one is a little bit definitely on the most believable side, not gonna lie to you.
Any coyote, any wolf, bear, or mountain lion. There were also clear indications of large pieces of flesh, muscle, and bone being ripped off the body of these corpses. The thought of a bear came to mind, even though grizzly bears are not native to the area. They tossed around the idea of maybe one slipped through or snuck down here, but it's really unlikely. The fact that a grizzly would have to cross several states and several rivers to even get to this area without much opportunity for food or breeding just didn't really make much sense. But the only thing they could wrap their minds around was a bear, because there's no known being from the animal kingdom that has this kind of brutality and killing power like a bear does. One of the officers had stepped outside the back of the motorhome holding a small dress of that.
It is scary, I'm not gonna lie, because the police are doing the same thing at this point. Their brain is trying to connect it to the most logical thing that they know freaking exist, man. And isn't it scary? Because if let's say 100, let's say if it's for real though, right? The fact that it was like, yo, the fact that it's like, yo, this happened, and the whole time, like, only you would know as you left what happened. I was like, man, people would never know what happened to me for real, for real. And even if I survived to tell them, they'll look at me like I'm crazy.
Does. One of the officers had stepped outside the back of the motorhome holding a small dress of that of a little girl's, around 5 or 6 years of age, which meant that there was a little girl with them. However, she was nowhere to be found in the immediate area, so a new search began.
Okay, there's a movie based off this, right? I saw this movie. Okay, my bad. Went all overreactor on you. Now, this story right here is giving me certain vibes of this movie I saw. I saw it once, randomly clicked on it real quick, right? Okay, so it's basically like this family, and I was getting these vibes from the beginning as well. Not gonna lie to you. It was this family, they got in this RV. They kind of was like traveling, having fun with their daughter, whatever. So they get to this campground location. It was a pretty good movie. I just randomly stumbled upon it. I'm about to spoil it. If you want to watch it, then you can skip this part. It was a crazy ass twist. This is kind of taking me in that direction. Either way, go though. So their daughter, I think, saw the movie one time. I think their daughter went into the trailer or by this trailer, whatever, and his family felt like, yo, the people who own that trailer kidnapped our daughter. They got our daughter in there, but they couldn't prove it. So they kept trying to go in there and get shit, like get proof, find out what's going on. And basically they end up, I think, killing that family in revenge because they couldn't prove that it was them or whatever. But on the way back, you find out that the daughter was already dead the entire time and the family knew. But the problem was that they were delusional. Like they did not want to accept that. They were like, no, our daughter's still alive, but you kidnapped them, so we're trying to prove it. I think that's what the movie is about. Can't lie, I bumped into it one time, but I was like, yo, that was actually a good twist. I don't remember remember if the movie was like really fire or not, but it was like the twist was like, yo, that was like actually kind of a good twist, whatever. Yo. But I don't know though. I'm gonna let the story finish, my bad.
Holding a small dress of that of a little girl's, around 5 or 6 years of age, which meant that there was a little girl with them. However, she was nowhere to be found in the immediate area, so a new search began, and they prayed for her safety and survival. All of this is going on, additional law enforcement were arriving, volunteer rescue squads were also arriving, new groups were showing up and being assigned to explore and examine certain areas of the crime scene. There was so much orchestration going on to just try and grasp what could have caused such a grisly murder and why. A freak bear killing just did not make any sense. More coroners would continue to show up, more samples would be taken, and in one of the samples taken in a bag was the torn father's arm, and in his dead fingers was a clump of tangled, matted fur, gray and brown hairs. This fur would be later analyzed at a lab. Remember this, I'm gonna get to this in just a minute. While everybody was hustling and bustling and trying to get this figured out all around the campfire and all around the motorhome, they hear a scream turning into a whimpering from about 50 yards away into the woods. Terrified at what could have happened, they all go running over there to try and see what had just happened, when it's an officer with his hat in one hand and blood on his face, with blood continuously dripping onto him.
Damn.
Something above him. Immediately, they all show their light sources up, looking for the source of this dripping blood. And all law enforcement could see in that moment is a long, slender hand hanging off a large tree branch and a leg, completely lifeless, with a white sock still on the foot. After going up there and retrieving this little girl's body, whatever had taken her had just been casually eating on her corpse, sprawled out and laid on the branch. And that same gray and black fur was found sticking into the bark right near where her body was found. The exact same gray and brown hair.
I ain't gonna lie to you, y'all. I believe this one. You can say what you want. I believe this one, dog. And it's not even just because I'm hella scared right now. Could be a little biased. It could be it. But I'm gonna let it finish. We'll talk more at the end.
Into the bark right near where her body was found, the exact same gray and brown hair that was found tangled in the dad's fingers. Within hours after this discovery, many of the law enforcement and medical personnel were sent away as new investigation teams would arrive on the scene to try and help figure out what could have done this and why. Law enforcement specifically, though, were strictly given the orders to not talk about this, especially to the media, given the severe circumstances. And many of them held on to that awful secret for such a long time. And pretty shortly thereafter,
implying that some people told the shit. I mean, obviously we're getting this story right now. Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
Many of them held on to that awful secret for such a long time. And pretty shortly thereafter, the results from those tests came back from analyzing that gray and brown hair. And do you know what they found? The species was that of an unknown origin. The closest DNA they found that matched the hair on the crime scene was that of a Canis lupus.
The hell is
wolf.
That? Oh.
These stories were very hard to tell. They are deeply disturbing and very terrifying. I greatly encourage you to do your own research and dig and see how much you can find. But I'm going to tell you, you might not like what you find.
And because when you go digging for shit, you gonna find some shit. You gonna get exactly what you're looking for sometime. And I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes when I go through those modes and I be wanting to like look up extra crazy shit online, like, yo, what about this? What about that? Oh, with me mostly, I never really look at it a lot on my own. It's mostly when I get around my friends, everybody gets smoking and talking. Hey, look, hey, you want to hear some crazy shit type of stories? Then we get to talking shit. Then we get to watching shit. Then like, yo, but peep this. And then I catch myself getting scared. Like, I should. So, some information, some knowledge is scary to me. Some is. But knowledge is power.
Dig and see how much you can find. But I'm going to tell you, you might not like what you find. And please, whatever you do, stay out of the woods.
Actually, I'll be in the woods pretty soon here. Well, actually, not the woods, but a nice little park. A nice little canyon area. Oh, it's going to be freaking beautiful. Beautiful. I wouldn't say stay out of the woods. I would definitely just say do it smart. Still enjoy nature. Shit gonna happen. Shit gonna happen wherever, dog. I'm not gonna lie though, it does get a little more mysterious there. It really does. I feel like that's worth the shit. Although we're not about to get into all that, whatever. But yeah, nature is beautiful. Just respect it. That one definitely got me wanting to look more into it to see like, yo, I want to know more about this area, LBL, because I don't know if people are just kind of giving these stories because it's like, yo, it's our tale here, it's our thing, or if it's legit people experiencing that. I can't say which one is which because obviously I never experienced neither one, whatever, right? But the stories, maybe as I go back and edit, I can hear some, but I don't really hear any holes in it. I'm not gonna lie to you, in these stories, I didn't really hear any holes in them, so I didn't really have a strong debate on like why I really didn't believe it. Only reason why I didn't believe it is because from what my mind knows, it's not logical. That's it. And which is not foolproof, which is not 100% proof of anything, but it's just my brain wouldn't take it there. And I felt comfortable when we got to the part with the cops. I was like, yo, I feel like I'm not alone here. It was just like, yo, they just wanted to was like, well, we just got to connect it to, I guess, the nearest thing that does make sense, even though it's way the hell off the grid. But hey, it's the only thing that's fucking logical, whatever. But it's like, I do feel like keeping it 100 with you. I do feel like people experience shit or see shit or will see shit where it's like, I can't tell the truth anyway because no one's gonna believe me, and when I do, I'm a little crazy. I do feel like it's a small percentage of people who encounter certain shit was like, yo, I was not supposed to see that here, huh? But hey, you may hear that and be like, dog, that don't make sense either. I don't believe that. And that's cool. You got the right to your own opinion, dog. All right. But yo, either way, I'm gonna go and get up out of here. I'm not gonna lie. If you tell ghost stories or anything scary, please send them to me because, that's gonna be fire, dog. I'm about to go ahead and get up out here and enjoy my day. Go ahead and enjoy your day, morning, evening, night, whenever you're watching this video. Yo, but I'm out.